How to cook a clear soup. Hello everybody, my name is James Howe, this is Chef at Home, and welcome back to the masterclass. Really nice to see some photos of your chicken Kievs going into the How to Cook Facebook group. Looks like you all did really well on that last practice dish. So now we're going to move on to a new section, so let's just crack on and get on with it. Okay, today's lesson we're going to be doing a clear soup, or otherwise known as a broth, not to be confused with consommé. We'll get to that later. But for today, for our soup, a tasty soup, we're going to be doing a riff on a classic chicken broth. So the first thing is I've got about 1 litre of some clear chicken stock. Now if you need a refresher on how to make this, I'll put a video up in the ether somewhere, or you can find it somewhere on this playlist. It's right back at the beginning, maybe less than 5 or 6, something like that. So this chicken stock has been made and allowed to cool down just enough so that any fats or impurities have risen to the top. Job number 1 is, just like when we made the stock, we're going to do it again and just skim off any fats that are left in there, because the more we can do that, the more clarity the broth's going to have, better end result. And the idea is it doesn't have that weird sort of glossy sheen to the top of it. And just like the stocks, if you've made this in advance, you can chill it, the fat will set at the top and you can just scrape it off. From there, pan on. So I've got a saute pan on, tiny splash of oil. I've just got that on a medium heat just to warm it through. Don't tend to like things going too crazy, it's too easy for it to go wrong. And then into there, just going to dunk in some chicken bones or carcass. You could do it with thighs. I'm using wings for the purposes of this. And all we want to do is just let them brown off. Get a good caramelisation on them, you get tons of flavour packed in. And then into there, I'll hoy in some garlic. Then into there we're going in with some thyme. Now I just want to get the flavours released in there very quickly. Just a splash of oil over the top. And then just massage the oil all over the thyme and then into the pan. And when you're starting to get to the stage where you're getting some nice colour on your chicken, hoy in your stock. We're just going to leave this to simmer away for about 45 minutes. Alright, so chicken's been simmering away, absolutely loving life. Now we're going to pull out these bones. Grab the garlic as well, that's done its job. And we're just going to leave that to cool for a little while. And then into here, lid back on a sec, and dice up an onion. Not too fine, sort of nice chunky dice sort of area. And pop them in. And we'll do a carrot as well. And again, just a fairly chunky dice. And in we go. And I would just let this simmer away for another 10 minutes, just on its own, before we go any further. Now you might be thinking these vegetables that are in here are going to act as a base like it would with the sauces previously. That makes sense, wouldn't it? But because this is a broth, we're not blending it, we're not straining it, these are there to impart flavour, impart texture, and also to give it a good hit of colour as well. So while we're on that subject, you can really sort of go wild with what you're going to be putting in there. So I'm going to go for these tomatoes. Any colourful veg will do the job. We'll cheat a bit and whip out the seeds like this. Don't need to be worrying about concassing tomatoes today. And then aiming for the same sort of size as the carrots and onions. Just going to give them a nice chunky dice. Then I've got some green beans I'm currently having a fight with. There we go. Nip off the tips. And then at an angle, be a bit pretty. Just going to give them a slice down. or paysan if you want to be technical about it. Then a bunch of parsley. Again, just a nice, this time we'll go a little bit finer. And then I got some peas. So these bits work their way in. Now this is really the sort of stuff that you're adding in the last few minutes. Peas in, straight from the freezer. And then use most of the parsley, keep a little bit back for finishing it off. Just let that stir through. And all of a sudden you've got this lovely explosion of colour in the pan. For our chicken, now what you could do is you could just strip it all down, fold it back through the soup. No problem at all if you want to do that. But what I prefer to do, pull it all off the bone and just keep it separate for a few minutes. There's a really effective thing you can do with the presentation. So to serve up, got our shredded chicken, and then I'm going to take out a little bit of the vegetable as well. Just put that in my little tray here. Sit the veg in the middle, and then top off with some of that lovely poached chicken. Super clear broth gently around the outside. It just gives it a really classic finish without being too pretentious, too overproduced. And then a little bit of the chopped parsley over the top. So there we are, a classic clear soup or broth, whatever you want to call it, absolutely fine. The skills involved, totally the same. But go have a go at it, play around with the veg that's going in there, play around with other things as well, maybe try folding some pasta through it, folding some noodles through it, and chicken noodle soup. World's your oyster. But the main mission is to get the clarity in that stock right at the beginning, be 90% of the way there. So all that remains is to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.